The movie begins with a man running in the woods at night. He exercising when a man comes out of nowhere. The man running asks him, "Who the hell are you?" The mysterious man then takes a knife and stabs him to death. He stands while looking at him agonizing. We will understand later in the film the importance of this moment. We then jump to a woman waking up in her bed. Her name is Sharon. She looks at picture of Mark, the man who was running. It was her husband. Sharon goes to wake up her son Anthony, who says he is sick, not feeling well. Sharon wonders if the real reason is him being bullied in school. But he changes his mind and says, fine, he will go to school. Minutes later, she steps out and Detective Barnes is at the door with some delicious donuts for her. They both jump into his car. He seems to be a longtime friend as well. He announces to her that a huge amount was withdrawn from Mark's bank account a month before his death. The man who took the money is called Jared, but Barnes informs that he has a great alibi. But Sharon reminds him that Jared made many death threats to the couple at numerous occasions. But Barnes doesn't exclude the possibility that someone hacked into his email to make them believe he is the murderer. Anthony then comes out with his bike. Barnes asks about him and Sharon thinks he has a bully at school. School then begins. Anthony goes to his locker and when he opens he finds a bunch of compromising photos of his mom. Brent the bully then comes out and makes fun of him as he is the one who did it. Anthony tries to talk back to him but Brent slams his violently against the locker. A mysterious kid named Dylan appears and asks if everything is okay. Brent wonders who is he and tells him to mind his own business. Anthony then leaves followed by Brent. Dylan takes this opportunity to pick up one of the papers and sees Sharon in a hot pause. Meanwhile, Sharon is at work and is investigating the threats emails sent from Jared to her late husband. Katie comes in and informs her boss Sharon that their new property is live. Sharon is a real estate agent and today is her first day back in the field. Anthony on the other end is looking at a girl. Dylan notices it and goes to talk to her. He brings her to him and introduces each other. Her name is Megan. What a nice guy Dylan is, or is he? But Anthony gets shy and excuses himself. On his way out, Dylan says out loud that Anthony is in the football team. Megan asks if it's true. Anthony goes with the lie and tells her yes, as this makes him more attractive to her. Now the poor Anthony is forced to go try to join the team. He wonders what is he doing there. Brent is in the team and makes fun of him. Anthony realizes Dylan is also trying to join the team. He gives him a smile. Coach loves how good he is. The tryouts then begin and each are giving their best to join the team. Anthony watches the others going at it and is petrified. It is now his turn to demonstrate what he got. He is facing Brent, who is excited. Brent then runs him over before the coach finishes counting and the coach reprimands him for that. He walks out angry while the coach is checking on Anthony. Later, Dylan comes to him and gives him some word of encouragement. But Anthony realizes something. Dylan knows a lot about his life, but he knows nothing from Dylan's life. Dylan laughs. But Anthony continues by saying, "You helped me with Brent and Megan, why are you being so nice to me?" He grabs a chair and tells him he felt bad for him after he learned about his dad. Because Dylan's dad died too. He feels a deep connection to Anthony as both of their dads are no longer here. He thought Anthony may need a friend. Anthony gives him a smile and asks for Megan's number. Anthony then opens his football locker but can't see his clothes. Both kids discover them in the toilet, probably another Brent prank. Later that day, Sharon finally gets back home after her first day. She calls Anthony but no response. She looks for him through the entire house and even goes to his room. He is not there. She worries. A loud sound is then heard outside. It's Dylan's car as he is dropping Anthony home. Sharon runs outside and reminds him he was supposed to come home right after school. But he informs her he was at football tryouts, which confuses Sharon even more. He introduces Dylan and asks his mom if he can have some people over tonight for swimming. The mom doesn't see any issue with it and also invites Dylan in. She doesn't know it yet, but this will be her biggest mistake. Dylan stands in front looking over the big house. The night arrives and a bunch of Anthony's classmates are over hanging out by the pool. Sharon sees Anthony getting close to Megan. She seems happy for her son. Dylan notices her and decides to step out of the water. He gives her a hot looks, she gets uncomfortable and steps outside with some snacks she made for everyone. The hungry teens devour them while Dylan tells Anthony he is going to the bathroom. Anthony introduces Megan to his mom. Inside the house, Dylan can't stop looking around. Instead of going to the bathroom, he goes into a bedroom and keeps looking around. That's Sharon's bedroom. Inside he finds Mark's books. Her late husband was a known writer. He looks at a family photo when Sharon catches him. He apologizes and shares that his dad also dies just like Anthony. Later that night, every friend went home and Sharon comes to her son asking why is his backpack in the washing machine. She also adds that Dylan seems old, but Anthony defends him, adding that not everyone is with you to get something from you. Both then discuss of how sad they feel about Mark's death. The next day, Dylan is helping Anthony at getting better at football. After that, he goes to meet Sharon and Katie saying his uncle wants to buy the house. She then gives him a tour of the house. On the field, Anthony does well and even surpass Brent. He goes to the locker to prank Anthony again but Dylan follows him. He threatens him and Brent gets scared. Later, Sharon is by herself when she gets scared seeing Dylan in the house. He says Anthony let him in. She thanks him for everything he does for Anthony. She then steps out and receives a mystery envelope saying, "I know what you did." Katie thinks she should it to Detective Barnes but Sharon doesn't want to because it will expose the affair she had with a man named Landon. The next day, Anthony is happy he made it to the football team. He invites Megan out and is so happy that he tells his mom about it. That same night, Dylan arrives with Megan and let Anthony use his car for their date. Sharon thanks him for doing that and invite him to stay in the house meanwhile. During the date, both are having such a great time. And Sharon tells Dylan to help himself to anything in her house. He asks her questions about Mark. How was he like? She talks to him about how Anthony really wanted to make his father proud. Dylan finds similarities with his uncle. Both keep bonding while going over Mark's books. Feeling the animosity Sharon had for Mark sometimes, he pushes to rip apart some pages of his books. She feels relieved. Moments later, Anthony is done with his date. They get in the car. She feels him nervous but he remembers Dylan's advice and kisses her. Meanwhile at home, Sharon is taking a hot shower. Dylan realizes it. He then gets an idea. He comes to her and she tells him he can't be here, but he takes off his shirt and joins her in the shower. Anthony and Megan then come back home after their date. He goes inside to get Dylan. He calls his mom and Dylan appears. Anthony is so happy and tells him Megan kissed him. Sharon is hearing him and is happy for him but at the same time ashamed. Later that night, Dylan gets back home. He looks at his legal guardian drunk and sleeping. He goes to his computer and we realize he was the one who have been sending threats to Sharon for now weeks. The next day, Sharon wakes up in a weird mood. She goes to the kitchen where Anthony joins her. He wonders where is Dylan, but realizes he is outside. He is talking to Detective Barnes who is investigating Mark's death. He gives a look to Sharon and leaves. Minutes later, Barnes tells Sharon how great Dylan seems to be but she doesn't care. Barnes feels something is off, and she tells him she wants to catch the murder as soon as possible. She worries for her and her son. At school, Brent the bully comes to Megan and makes fun of her dating Anthony, but also adds something is wrong about Dylan. Meanwhile, Sharon arrives to show a house to a couple as she is a real estate agent, but the potential buyers show the threats left at their door this morning. In those threats it reveals that Sharon had an affair while Mark was still alive and they are repulsed. They leave. Meanwhile at school, Brent calls Dylan by the name Theodore. Dylan is shocked and Brent screams to stay away from this school as he knows some informations on him. Katie, Sharon's assistant, tells her she should share these threats with Barnes. At football practice, Dylan arrives very serious. He tells Anthony he needs a favor, he wants him to lie for him. A little later, on the field, Dylan shows up and punches Brent in front of everybody. The coach then realizes there is blood on Dylan's arm and he tells him Brent cut it. Sharon on her side gets a call from school. She immediately goes there and finds Dylan and Anthony at the coach's office with Detective Barnes. Dylan is telling the fake story of Brent cutting him and adds he has been threatening Anthony with that knife the whole year. Anthony lies and confirms Dylan's statement. Barnes then tells them that Brent has been immediately kicked out of the school. The mother and son then arrive home and Dylan is mad. He even accuses her to not be upset that Mark is dead. She is shocked to hear that. He screams at her that she never wanted him to be like his father. He then reveals that he knows about her affair back in the days. Mark told him the truth, believing his son can handle the truth. The poor kid is destroyed inside and goes to lock himself in his room. Meanwhile, Dylan texts Sharon saying he would love to tour the house she is selling. She meets him there that same evening. As soon as he sees her, Dylan kisses her. She seems to enjoy it. While they kiss, someone drives by and takes a video of them in the act. They then go inside of the house and make love. The next day, Anthony wakes up and realizes his mom is not in the house. He finds it weird and heads to school. Meanwhile, Sharon wakes up in that house with Dylan next to her. Someone rings the bell and she tells him to hurry up as this is a house for sale. Sharon hurries to open the door and it's Katie, who wonders what is she doing here. At school, Megan catches up to Anthony and wants to show him something. She shows the video of Sharon and Dylan kissing. The poor kid is traumatized. Megan then reveals that she got Dylan's file from her mom being a principal. She reveals he lied about everything. He is not even a teen, he is 21 years old. Anthony asks her how she got this video. She was asked by Dylan to meet her when she bumped into this situation. Anthony, furious, storms out. Meanwhile, Barnes is questioning Brent. He found out that actually Dylan cut himself and pretended Brent did. He wonders why. At school, Dylan meets Megan outside and takes her phone for the video. He sends it to himself. Back in the house on sale, Sharon realizes the video of her kissing Dylan has been put on their social media page. At this moment, Barnes arrives and is disappointed she slept with Dylan. Later that day, Megan texts Anthony that she wants to meet to talk. He agrees and heads out. Seconds later, Sharon comes home. Anthony bikes to the location given by Megan. He knocks and Dylan appears behind him with a tissue over his nose to make him unconscious. Sharon on the other end receives a text pretending to be Megan saying Anthony is staying the night. Landon then emails her to meet. She immediately calls Barnes to join her there. She arrives at the house she is selling. Once she gets in, finds a video playing on a screen. It's a video of Landon and his son. Dylan then appears. He takes his knife out and Sharon realizes it's the knife he used to kill Mark. Dylan adds that is the knife his dad used to kill himself. Sharon asks him why not just kill her. He tells her he doesn't want to kill her. He wants her to kill herself. She calls him crazy. But Dylan adds that if she didn't have an affair with Landon, his dad, she wouldn't have killed Mark and he would be alone now with Anthony. He adds that her career is ruined after the viral video of them kissing. He then pushes her, saying her son will never speak to her ever again. At that moment, Sharon realizes he has Anthony. Dylan admits to it and tells Sharon that if she kills herself, he will let her son go home tonight. He puts his knife in her hands, but she uses it to stab his knee. She then runs away and bumps into Barnes. She tells him Dylan is the one who killed Mark. Barnes hurries to that room, but he isn't there anymore, and with Barnes' help they look up Dylan's true address. Meanwhile, Anthony is waking up. He hears Megan. He realizes they are both tied up in the woods. He apologizes to Megan to have her involved into all of this. Megan wants to find a way to get out of here. Anthony looks closely around him and knows exactly where they are. This is where Mark has been killed. Barnes and Sharon then arrive to the house. Sharon notices Anthony's bike. She hurries and breaks the door. They find Dylan's legal guardian sleeping and drunk. Both try to figure out where could he have taken Anthony. Anthony on the other end is trying to get out of the ropes. Sharon and Barnes then arrive to the location. Barnes takes a breath of his inhaler. Sharon runs to the woods by herself and Dylan comes behind Barnes, stabbing him. Dylan then runs towards Sharon. He catches up to her and points the gun he found on Barnes. Anthony then jumps out of nowhere to protect his mom. Dylan doesn't want to hurt Anthony, but he ends up shooting and Megan comes behind him with a rope, making his shots miss. He pushes her down and Anthony jumps on him as well as Sharon. She grabs his gun and Anthony begs her not to shoot. They all then leave. Days later, we are shown Sharon with the house finally sold. She tells Katie that she is retiring from real estate. She then goes to visit Barnes, who is on crutches. She tells him sorry for never giving him a chance as it's obvious he likes her. He then asks for a chance now. A little later, Anthony comes back home and Sharon is happy for her son who had a great day at school. The movie then ends.